everybody. My name is Dave Jackson, he, him, and this is Tales from the Backlog, where each week I'm joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is Ultros, but before we get into Ultros, a few quick things. If this is your first time here, here's how spoilers work, and thank you for stopping by. We are not going to spoil the story of Ultros. We're not going to spoil cool things that you discover by playing Ultros and things like that. So for a while. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can know that you're safe for a while. There's a timestamp in the show notes for when spoilers begin. And until then, we're going to talk about everything else that we can. And if you like the show, please consider supporting however you can, whether that's on Patreon. You can tell friends, share around in Discord servers, leave ratings and reviews, things like that. They're all a big help, and I appreciate them very much. But I'm not here alone to talk about Ultros today. I have a returning friend of the show back to talk about Ultros. It's John Rogers, he, they. John is the host of the Gaming in the Wild podcast and YouTube channel, and a soon-to-be published author. We'll talk about that pretty shortly, I think. And a gardening enthusiast. Welcome, John.
I do like gardening. Thanks for having me. It's fun to be back. This is, of course. This is a big game we have on the slate today. It's nice that you asked me for it. An apt one, I think.
Well, I couldn't really think of anyone better to ask other than maybe the people who made the game themselves. But I'm really happy to have you back. I think this is our third one. Inscription and Citizen Sleeper 2 we did before. That's right. Both good chats. And this is going to be a fun one. This is such an interesting game.
It is. It's a one-off. And I think I'm really happy that you're covering this game. I'm really happy that you got to this game. You know, it didn't set the world on fire in terms of becoming a massive hit or anything. We know some Metroidvanias go on and sell millions, like one particular one that's out right now.
Yeah.
A small selection. Ultros felt like it had a chance. It wasn't, presented by Sony, big game. But I don't know. I think I'm really glad that people are still finding it, and so I'm happy to be doing this with you.
Right. Yeah, as always, it was on my radar from the second I saw it, but sometimes it just takes me a while to get around to playing it. And I got a good push to actually push this one up the list. Let's set up Ultros for those who are unfamiliar real quick. Ultros is a Metroidvania. It's developed by we talked pronunciation before. I don't know how to say the name of the developer. Hadoque? Hadoque, okay.
Literally just Hadoque in Swedish, I believe.
Hadoque, okay. Published by Kepler Interactive, and it came out on contemporary consoles and PC in 2024. There are two primary credits that you'll see a lot of times throughout the list of credits. Niklas Ackerblath is the concept director, the art director, creative director, and Morten Brueggemann is credited with the concept, game design director, and project manager and programming, and also help from Hugo Bile with programming. And we'll have some more credits as we go per usual, but lots of people wearing many hats, or a couple people wearing many hats on this project. If people don't know what Ultros is, we have our elevator pitches per usual. I say it is the world's first Gardenvania, I think, to steal a term from the developers. John, what would you say?
Well, I was going to say that when I do Gaming in the Wild, I always do a little capsule at the start of the show where I say they say and I say. Would you like to hear that? It's just go. So if it was on Gaming in the Wild, I'd say Ultros. The developers say Ultros is a psychedelic Metroidvania where you wake up stranded in the sarcophagus, a cosmic uterus holding an ancient demonic being. Trapped in the loop of a black hole, you will have to explore the sarcophagus, meet its inhabitants, and understand the part you play. And I say, Ultros is an instant classic that revitalizes the Metroidvania genre. The prismic visuals and symphonic score are a sensual treat, and the game's ingenious ecosystem slowly blooms into a meta-puzzle that demands patience, observation, curiosity, and creativity.
Perfect. That was extremely Gaming in the Wild. Love it.
And it's a long elevator ride. It's a tall building that we were in just there, so my elevator pitch had that extra, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah. We allow tall buildings and long elevator rides for sure. We always want to give some stats for the playthrough. So I played this on PC. Between PC and Steam Deck, both of them worked really well on Steam Deck. Took 17 hours for me to beat. John, how about you?
I got 28 hours down for my playthrough here, but that included a lot of side stuff, a lot of secrets, a lot of backtracking, a lot of experimenting with all of the stuff you can do in the game, and going for the true ending or whatever. So 28. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with this one. I played it on the ROG Ally. At the time, it was only out on PS5 and PC, but since it's come to Game Pass, and I think it's coming to Switch still, so you can play it anywhere by now, I think.
Right. So we always kind of start with our histories with the game. I know you were on this like right from the beginning, and I remember I played a NextFest demo when I first saw just scrolling down the list of demos, and I saw like Metroidvania, looked at a screenshot, I was like, that looks cool, I'm going to try that demo. So was it the same for you? Just instantly like saw a screenshot jumping in?
I saw it in a direct. I don't remember if it was, I guess it was PlayStation. Maybe it was in a state of play. I think because Sony did support the game. So I think it was maybe a state of play. It was a trailer. The first trailer has this like slow pan across several environments of the game. Where you start to see this sort of stained glass look and these like buzzing bugs and this strange like Art Deco forms in the background, and my eyes just sort of popped. I was like, what is this game? That palette is not something I've seen before. And the music too. And then as we started to see gameplay, I was like, this game had me right away. I always have slight reservations when it's like a jumpy platformy action. I'm like, okay, is this going to be good though? Is it going to feel good? So that was my big concern. But when I got my hands on it, I was like, yeah, this is it. I think from the first moments I played it, I was just all in.
Yeah. And are you normally like interested in playing like the new hot Metroidvania? It's a pretty common genre out there. Is that like a selling point for you? I know that we're both taking time away from our Silksong playthroughs to record this right now. But are you looking for more Metroidvanias any chance you get? Because I kind of am.
Well, I'm like an original went to the store and bought Super Metroid cartridge person, and finished Super Metroid. It's one of the first like serious games that I think I ever saw credits on.
Yeah.
So I mean, as a teenager, I remember playing Super Metroid and like finding the breakable walls and going through all of the stuff, and coming out at the end of it being like, what was that? That game was something special. And so it's been embedded in me forever. And I do like one. Like I really enjoyed Haiku the Robot when that came out. I quite enjoyed the Ori games, although I have qualms with them.
Yeah.
But it is a formula that I played a lot of over the years. And so I'm always open to it, but I'm also ready to bail in an hour if it's just a Metroidvania, just another Metroidvania. So it's like, yes, sometimes like Haiku the Robot was perfect. 3 hours long, you're out. Yeah. Something like Islets, maybe a Metroidvania-ish. Like I was like, I don't know. It's not got the extra that I'm looking for. Haiku the Robot did have it. Sometimes they don't have it, and Ultros has all of it.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned the structure, because like it's just, I've come to realize over like just playing a certain type of game a couple times recently on the show, Zelda games, Pokemon games, Souls games, those are structures that just work for me. If the game built on the structure is okay, I'm going to have a good time. Just works. And Metroidvanias are another structure that really works. And then it's up to the game to, like you said, like fill in that structure, the meat that's on the bones, with some cool creative ideas. And Ultros is just, I can't think of anyone that does anything more creative with this structure than Ultros. It starts out being a thing where you're like, oh, the combat mechanics are interesting. Like they thought of a cool idea for combat and experience points and how do you do your skill tree and stuff like that. And you think that like that's the limit of like, okay, they have some fun ideas and some amazing art and music. And then you keep playing and you're like, holy shit, no, they've thought of this thing that no one has, I have never seen someone do this with this structure before. and it totally flips what you're doing on its head. We'll talk, of course, specifics in the spoiler section, but major props to them for, number one, having this cool creative idea, but number two, really pulling it off. And it ended up being like super satisfying. I remember texting you, like, I rolled the credits, the game's not over though. And then you were like, oh yeah, lots to go. And then like I texted you like the next day and I was like, I'm done. I played like 6 hours today. I couldn't stop. I was so enthralled by what was going on. So
I was trying to be gentle with you with that, because you hit credits and you're like, I saw credits, and I was like, oh great, bit more to go there.
Right. Yeah, no, this is just a super cool game.
Yeah, and you're right to say that, like, in terms of Metroidvanias and the pantheon of Metroidvanias, Ultros should be right up there. But I think it has perhaps become something of a curate's egg, if that's the phrase, or like a curio for Metroidvania superfans. And like when we see what Silksong is doing in the world right now, in terms of the attention it's getting, it does bum me out just slightly that Ultros remains like an enthusiast's Metroidvania. I think that if people were to play it with the same vibe they came into Silksong with, it could have been like a mass cultural hit. But it's an odd one. It's an odd duck. It is a collector's item of a Metroidvania. It's kind of what makes it great. And I think it's going to have a long lifespan. I think this is a game people will keep finding.
I hope so. Another thing that kind of like, it's going to start jumping out at me more because I've done so many games that Kepler has published recently on the show, and they all seem to be very interesting in their own way. Like the people, whoever is, scouting at Kepler seems to just have like a crazy eye for cool games. Pacific Drive is a super cool and unique game. Expedition 33, of course. I just did a Bionic Bay podcast, and Ultros. They're all really, really cool and striking. And like, I think I've said this on previous episodes, but the more I play, Kepler's rising up to this level of like, oh, they think this game is cool. I should keep an eye on this.
Yeah, they are the new Annapurna to me. Like, I think Annapurna has gone down a notch, and Kepler has taken the slack. I think like Devolver and Kepler. I mean, even Devolver is not hitting on all cylinders quite how Kepler is right now. So I think they've gone from being a new name a few years ago, to being like maybe the best in the biz indie publisher of the moment, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that for sure. Well, we've got a lot to talk about ahead of us, so let's take our first music break, and then when we come back, we'll set up the story, and we'll quickly get into the aesthetics of Ultros, coming soon. Ultros has a primary writing credit to Pelle Candlerby, and the main menu, I want to just set up the beginning here. The main menu begins, it shows this large like spaceship or space station or something orbiting near a planet. The whole game takes place inside of this station. You play as far as I can tell, an unnamed character. People have different names that they call you, but I don't know what the character's name is. You're clad in this futuristic spacesuit. You wake up, you're inside the spaceship, and you start to move out and just try and figure out what the hell's going on here. I'm going to read a little bit from the Steam description to kind of set this up. It says this spaceship is called the Sarcophagus, and it is holding an ancient demonic being inside. So you've already got a little bit of a Lovecraftian type of feel to it. But you don't really know what your role is. You get up, you start walking around, and we'll return to the story, but I want to jump to the thing that's probably the most striking about this game, which is the art and the sound. And I remember like booting the game up and setting my Steam Deck down and just kind of being mesmerized by that main menu. And the main menu song kind of begins with this kind of blaring sci-fi sound, but then that suddenly fades back and this like beautiful, very long song kicks in. And I sat there for like 10, 15 minutes just on the main menu, like getting into the vibe of Ultros, and you get it all, like the visuals of that main menu and the music. So let's start with the visuals. John, you have a thing in the notes to let John go ham on the art and let John go ham on the music. So the floor is yours.
Right. I mean, as I was saying, that the art of this game is what caught my attention first, what caught everyone's attention first. There is not another game that looks like this.
Yeah.
And there is a lot to be said about it. It's hard to know where to start, right? It's described often as psychedelic because it does have the kind of color palette that you might see in some like 70s acid rock poster. It has like acid green, like deep purples and blues. It has like fizzing, sizzling colors, and then real silky, deep colors like staring into the void blue. If it was a Pantone color, you know what I mean? So the color palette of the game just sings from the second that you look at it. And the art is all hand-drawn. It has a beautiful, fluid penmanship in the way that it's put together that looks like the ink is wet as things move, you know, like the animation style, absolutely gorgeous. And like what that does for you is like, you know, a lot of games are trying to make you feel like you're somewhere else, somewhere in space, somewhere weird. Ultros does that better than anyone. Like you are enthralled and you're like, where am I? Where am I in this? What is this that I'm looking at?
Yeah.
It has you in the palm of its hand because it's just absolutely wild to look at. It's very detailed. Like there's a lot in the backdrop all the time.
Yeah. It's really, the background art is like basically every room is a painting. You walk in and it's like you take in the different layers of each room of the art. Like you walk in and you're like the plants and animals in the foreground. And then like you've got this, maybe there's like statues or machinery or something in like this kind of middle background. And then like the far background, like you're in a space station. Sometimes there's windows going off into space or like stained glass and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Just you get in like Metroidvanias or like a movement genre, a backtracking genre, and you get into this kind of mode of like kind of flying through screens basically to get to your next objective. You know, maybe I got a double jump and I got to get over here to go see what was up on that ledge. But Ultros is really like begs you to slow down and like just look at the rooms and see all the decorations and stuff like that.
It does, and like as we're going to touch on in the story, it's a light touch story, and a lot of the material that you can use to interpret the game is in Nicholas's art. It's not in words; it's in the imagery. So if you're coming through an area and you're thinking like, what is this area? What is the character of this area? I mean, you could just say visual storytelling as shorthand, but it's more than that. It's that the character of the rooms that you're going through. And the iconography in them. Sometimes there is like, you know, there's one very memorable scene early on where you're coming through the Temple of Motherhood. The name tells you something already. And you walk past some statues. One of them is like holding a swaddled baby in a statue, baby in inverted commas. And around them, there are statues that are turning away like a religious painting, like as if shocked by what they have seen. And so right away, you're getting like, you can run past that in 5 seconds, but every detail in the artwork tells you something.
Yeah. Real quick, you mentioned the name, and I want to let everyone know again, the art directing credit is to Nicholas Ackerblad, aka the nickname you may know El Huervo, who they're a prominent artist. Video game fans may know them most from the Hotline Miami 1 and 2 cover art, which like I didn't pick that up by myself, but as soon as I read that, I was like, it's like an assault on your eyes when you first start the game, with all the colors, all the details and things like that. But one thing I wanted to really credit them for is I was never unclear on like, what's a platform that I can jump on? Even though there's so much happening visually, it's always very clear, like, what am I supposed to interact with versus what's set dressing here. And that's, I mean, that's got to be a fine line to walk because it's doing the most visually, right?
Right. And I mean, I think at some point we're going to have to say it, but we kind of skipped it in the intro, but I did just write the book about this game for Lost in Core, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So I sat down with, if for people who are listening, I had a very lucky experience of being able to sit down with these guys over the course of a month, talk to them a lot. and then write a book for Lost in Cult about Ultros. And so I've spent a lot of time talking to them about it and going back and forth with them about it, and like looking into the design, looking into the art, and getting first-hand accounts of the thinking, the process, and all of that stuff, right? So when you're describing like the visual legibility of these overwhelming environments, you're dead right. I mean, that was one of my first questions for Morten Brueggemann, was like, how on earth did you work with the art
Yeah.
in a gameplay sense? And he was like, that's what everyone asks us, because it is so much. It's maximalist. It is blaring at you. And so I think what they did was to use effects a lot, which in a way works, because like if there's a breakable block, you're looking at this black piece of wall that is riddled with like neon color.
Like,
pulsing.
Light peeking out through the cracks. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so in this maximalist game, how do you draw the eye to anything? And the answer turned out to be more maximalism. And so they just layered effects and effects and effects and effects onto things. And so any object you're supposed to pick up is twinkling like crazy. It's gasping for you to look at it, because it has to within that environment. So like it was definitely a challenge for them, and definitely, according to some of the interviews, fractious, because there was gameplay versus art. Anyone who's seen Psych Odyssey, the Double Fine documentary, will know about art versus design people. And I think that it's fair to say that this was a challenging game for them to make in that regard.
Yeah, and apologies for being scatterbrained and missing that in the introduction. But when the book was announced, the Lost in Cult book that you're working on, it was like instantly like, yeah, that's the perfect game to have a whole book dedicated to the sights and sounds and things like that, because Ultros is just there's so much happening. And it's one of those games that you would play and be like, how do you come up with this? Like, what is the inspiration behind all of this like crazy art and this color palette and everything like that? So, it was one that when it was announced, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Of course, it's Ultros. So shout out to Lost in Cult. Again, Kepler has a good eye. Lost in Cult has a good eye for games with, designs worth delving deeper into, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very, very, very happy when Lost in Cult threw that one my way. Obviously, I'd interviewed Hugo for the podcast because I wanted to talk about Gardenvanias. And so I had some contact with them, but when the opportunity came up to do the deepest possible dive into the game, spend a year writing about the game, talk to everyone involved, I was like, thank God it's Ultros that came my way, because it's a game that has so much happening inside of it. It's got that 1,000 times resist factor, not in the same way, but it's got a similar layering where every time you pull back layers, you get more layers, and it's meant to be that way. It's like leaves and leaves of what you could talk about in the game. It's a really fun one in that sense, and it is sometimes to do with the art. It's like, how does this art work with everything else that's happening?
Yeah. The station itself, we should also say, is lush with life. It's not like, when we say it's a space station, it's not, Prey 2017 or Dead Space or something like that. It is it's an ecosystem. There is plant life, there's animal life. Obviously, you're set up to fight the animal life, and there's mechanics to interact with the plant life too. We'll talk about that stuff. But a lot of the rooms you're going through, it has this cool, some of the rooms have this overgrown factor where it's like, you can look at this room and be like, there was a, quote, a human use for it before, but now it's overgrown with plants and stuff like that. And then there's other parts of the station you go into and you're just like, this is just like a forest that we're in here. And that plant life especially is really striking. The alien, like the animal life they look like aliens. They're cool and creative, but the plant life, like you walk in and you see like the gardener's room and you see gardener's tree in there and you're like, love that tree. It's a beautiful thing and it's filling the room. And it's one of the things that the game definitely has something to say about is the way that you interact with life around you and stuff like that. So it's, again, a balance of like, you're on this weird space station, alien station, you don't know what the hell's going on, but it's like, it's kind of familiar because of, especially I guess, like the focus on the plants and things like that. Visually very cool again.
Yeah, it really is. Like, Yeah, you think of a space station, you think of like the Death Star, you think of like, Deep Space Nine, wires hanging everywhere. You
Hmm.
don't think about a garden. And like from the very first moments of the game that you were describing, when Uji wakes up in a field,
Right.
you hear the sound, you hear the like crickets, and you hear the sound of wildlife in the background, and you see the swaying fronds of the plants, and you're like,
Hmm.
I'm somewhere strange, like I'm somewhere alive. And there is like this sort of rustling sound and this density to it that makes it feel like it's more like waking up in a field. But yeah, it's a space station and it's a field and it's a farm and a jungle. It's like an incredibly cool setting.
Yeah, the music and sound credit is to Oscar Rydelius. I don't know how to say that. Their pseudonym is much easier to say, Rat Vader, which is a fucking awesome pseudonym. Love it. Music and sound design. And I think, we just got done talking about how rich the visual design is. The sound and music is just as rich, if not more. You really get those sounds of like a living ecosystem. So like, insects, birds, stuff like that. I read that they did some like on-site, wildlife ambiance recording in Peru, as well as like some music instruments from the region as well. I'm sure you can speak to that too, but the kind of like like hooking you with the visuals and then enveloping you in this sound to like really sell again, like this is not the Dead Space space station. This is a living place in so many ways.
Yeah, the sound is huge in this game.
Hmm.
Um, I think because it's a 2D game, you get what you're given in terms of looking at the plane, right? There
Hmm.
is a lot of parallaxing in it. It does go deep, and there is foreground and background elements, hanging things, different colors and effects and filters. But
Hmm.
you can only get so much depth visually, and so I think that the sound gives that depth. It's like in Citizen Sleeper, like the words tell you you're in a refectory and you're looking at a diagram of a building, but it's
Hmm.
the sound of Amos Roddy, which is like the clinking glasses and the people speaking in the background that really takes
Yeah.
you there.
Hmm.
And I think that Rat Vader does that for the game. It's like it really sells what the art is trying to give you. The art is trying to give you a deep, dense, living world, and it gets most of the way. But then the sound
Hmm.
just takes it over a line and takes it somewhere else because you're hearing animals that you cannot see. Like there is hooting in the background or like
Hmm.
yowling and rustling, and you're like, oh, there's something in here with me. Like this place is alive. It goes deeper than what I can see. And I think that the sound design really gives that to you. And yeah, he did go to Peru. He flew out there, took like a telescope mic to try and isolate strange sounds. He then came back with discs and discs full of sounds, and then treated them, isolated them, peeling away all the sounds of the cicadas and crickets just to make a
Hmm.
pure bird sound. He calls it sound sculpting because I think it's got a visual element when you're cleaning away frequencies, and then
Mm.
pitched them down or pitched them up. So
Yeah.
you might hear a sound that sounds like a cooing bird, but like a real big cooing bird
Yeah.
in the background. And you're like, what is that? It's like familiar, but not. And so he
Hmm.
did that real cool trick of like alienizing and queering like familiar sounds to make you feel like you're somewhere but not.
Yeah. It's really, really nice. And I also just want to shout out, like, so we have it gives like this kind of warm feeling, right? Of being in a natural place, which again, like a lot of video games go for this, but I I don't want, I mean, like the really high budget ones, a lot of them do get there of like, selling the idea that you're in a forest or something like that. This one also gets you there. And then so you have this warm sound from all these nature things, and then you're walking through the station, you're slashing this knife around as you're fighting things or something like that. It just has like this cold metallic sound that really contrasts well with like the warmth of the environment around, which is resonant with again what I think like the game is trying to say. And we'll get into that in a while, but just to it's not all nature sounds. There's a lot going into it, and there's a lot that these sounds make you feel in the way that they combine to create an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they do. It's like something that came out from chatting to these people, right, is that Nicholas and Oscar Ratvader are close friends and they've been for
Mm.
a long time. And like they both have like long hair and they're both kind of slightly dreamy, hippie-ish boys with a faraway look in their eye that are seeing things that maybe you're not seeing in the world. They're just interesting, like lovable space cadet artist people who are off on their own line. I absolutely love them for that. I love talking to them for that. Like, you get the unexpected, and you get poetry when you speak to them, and sometimes you get sharpness when you speak to them. And like, I think Niklas and Oscar like belong together as people, and I think they belong together as artists. And so when you see what Niklas is creating visually, and it's like, you know, like very fine root structures that go under plants when you see like a cutaway, and you can see how they're all growing together. It's like that with them too. It's all of these little twines of thought and little twines of experience that are just vibing together. And like when you listen to the sounds of Ultros and you see the way it looks, that their close friendship and their close like-mindedness and kindredness, I think, permeates the game. And it's why it gels together quite how it does, maybe.
It's like one of the least surprising things I've ever heard. Like, you play this game and you get that sense that everything is meshing together really, really well. So that history with the two of them makes a lot of sense to hear.
Right. And I mean, can I just add to it, actually, that like Hugo
course.
and Morton, they're not the same kind of people in a way. Like, they're ecologically minded, but they are like clipped ready, like game design people, bit more systematic thinking, to put it mildly. But it's very interesting seeing like Morton and Hugo and Oscar and Niklas coming together to do the game, right? Because Hugo and Morton had to tune into the frequency that was coming from what was being made here. Yeah. And they did. Like, Hugo ended up doing some writing on the game about life cycles, and he's a very ecologically minded guy. He's like the lead of the International Game Developers Association Climate SIG, special interest group. So it's like, how do we address climate in games? That's his whole deal. And Morton has got like, he was about to have his first child at the time. So there's a lots of thinking in him at the time about loops and about parenthood and that kind of thing. And so it all kind of tangles together, and you get Hugo and you get Oscar, very, very emotional about the environment. Oscar, like deeply caring of the environment. And you get Niklas, and when it all comes together, and Pele's got his own space cadet frequency as well. And when it was all woven together, it's something special. And Hugo said himself, when I was pointing this out to him, he was like, I know, right? Like, what is that? Why does this game chime this way? Like, we don't know either, but it happened.
Nice. So we've talked about like the sound and the ambiance, I will say, but there's a lot of like really great like composed music in the game too. I don't want to go without bringing that up as well. You know, we said in the story setup that there's a demon or something in this ship. And so a lot of the music has a kind of like dark undertone, especially when you're like in close dealings with that thing. It's ominous, it's scary, it's sci-fi alien type stuff. But I was listening to the soundtrack again and thinking about the main menu song, and I think the most prominent song that plays as you're just going around the world, maybe in like the middle sections of the map where you might spend the most time. There's a lot of optimism in the soundtrack that I picked up on, that it really fits with like what the story I think is about. But while also keeping that kind of darkness because there's a demon on the ship as well, which is really good. This soundtrack is like I said, it caught me from the main menu, but it was consistently like anytime I stopped to listen to the music in here, I was always like, wow, you know, it's not the hooky melodies that we associate with video game soundtracks, but there's a lot of like light and color that's in the music. I'm trying to find a way to describe it, because it's not just like looping, repeating melodies like Metroidvania soundtracks tend to be or used to be.
Right. It's not Axiom Verge with its like crunchy pixel sound or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's symphonic, I would say. It's it has organic instruments in it. The cellist is very prominent, and is like a powerful cellist. You know, some cellists play clean cello in the Yo-Yo Ma style, and some cellists play like emotional cello that groans and moves, and this cellist does that. And yeah, like Rat Vader recorded this in a tiny one-room studio, right? And had the players come in one at a time to record their parts. And it sounds like it was recorded in the Albert Hall or something. It sounds big. It's expansive, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
There is like twinkles in the background. There is chimes, bells, wind sounds, string sounds. It's a big sounding score, and it creates a space for sure. Like I think what you're describing is right. It's not just a game soundtrack. It's like a space that you walk into, that soundtrack. And yeah, optimistic, natural. Oscar's love of nature, his love of ecology, is in the music too. And so as you're looking at these plants and hearing this music, you're taken there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of like recognizable sound effects when you like do stuff around the world too. Like when you plant something and as it's growing, you have like this, it's not the way, plants don't make sounds when they grow, at least not that we can hear, but they put in these bubbling kind of sound effects and twinkling and pumping water and things like that all play as you're interacting with the world. And it, those are nice, friendly sounds as you're doing things like that.
Yeah, I will say actually that that Oscar, he went out to Peru and recorded all this stuff, obviously. So you don't know what you're listening to often, but you can get a feeling. You can be like that frog song in the background that I'm hearing right now with this in this cavern with this dripping water. There's the vast nature of the jungle, right? It's like bigger than anything that we've ever seen, unless we've literally been to a rainforest and hiked through it. But it's captured that ambience, and so it gives you that feeling. And Niklas, in the color schemes, talks about finding a feeling in your body when you're looking at the art. Like he was coloring and like trying to find the balance, not using color theory, but ending at a place where he said he could feel it in his body. And when I played Ultros, no joke, I would look forward to it at the end of the day, sit down, get that screen in my face, clamp my headphones on, and feel like adrenaline, feel like endorphins in my body, and be like tingling. Like the sensory input of the game from the sound, the music, and the art gave me, I think, the frequency that he was going for, and that to me is like some kind of sorcery.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, anything that can give you that kind of a connection is really noteworthy. And if it's not blatantly obvious by now, if anyone's listening and is like thinking about playing Ultros, you got to play this with headphones if you can. It really is a layered thing. It's just going to get lost unless you have like the world's best like surround sound system or something like that. It's really, really good. So setting up like the way it looks and sounds, and you kind of begin the game with this kind of unclear objective. You just kind of wake up and start moving. To loop back to the story, this to me is less about like trying to figure out exactly what's going on. I know the beats of like what happened in my playthrough. I'm not clear on like what's this character all about. Like I'm still not clear on a bunch of that stuff. But what it became is like I'm in this place, I'm interacting with this place in specific ways and in evolving ways, and it became a really strong emergent narrative game where like my story of like, so like the story combining of like what my character did, but also like what decisions I made as a player to like then go interact in a specific way and things like that, all combined into like a really nice thing where I'm like, this is my story of playing Ultros and the realizations that I made and things like that, rather than like, you'd play an RPG and come out and be like, this is the story of Final Fantasy 16 or something like that. It's a different kind of thing. I really ended up liking it, even though I played for a while and was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on this station. Which, I mean, it's very obviously intentional that, no one sits you down and says, hey, buddy, here's what's going on here.
No, they really don't. And I think that when I recorded my episode about Ultros, that was the one thing that I picked up on, as it was the only main critique I had of the game, actually. Some people out there have critiqued it for being lost a lot and that kind of thing. But my only critique at the end of the game was, I wish I knew what happened just a little more. And I think that the way that you're describing it is more in tune with what the game wants from you. I had a bit more of like a I had a hunger to really know.
Yeah.
And I think that the game doesn't want you to really know. In fact, I mean, I went onto Reddit after finishing it and left a post saying, masterpiece, oh my God, I wish I knew what was going on though. And like a year later, Like my Reddit name is just some random shit, right? But a year later, I got a comment on there, and it was Niklas Ackerblad, and he'd been reading the board, not knowing it was me. And he actually left a comment saying, I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it exactly, and I couldn't find the notification now. But he said something like, we wanted you to make up your own story, like watching David Lynch. Normal storytelling feels so played out. So that was the response, and he'd clearly just on, some afternoon decided to look what people are saying about Ultros finally, and found that comment. And he was expressing the artistic intent of the game, which is, figure it out. But I will say also that like people have tried to figure it out. There's a lot of stuff in there about bits and bobs, Beria, the planet, who various characters are. I'm not going to spoil it because we're not past the spoiler break, but I will say that for true detectives, I think that the story is there. But for my personal taste, I would have liked to be led a little further down the path.
Yeah.
Just a little further down the path so that I could feel satisfied at the end of the game. And I think I came away thinking like, I'm just going to sit and think about this all night. And I was left feeling slightly unsatisfied by the story resolution, but it is all there. It is all there.
Yeah, there is definitely enough to like pique your curiosity to like want to know more. And then I can see where you would get frustrated if you then were like, I want to know more, but I can't. And I'm not a person who's going to do the lore digging and, put up the corkboard with the pins and strings and stuff like that. So whenever a game gives me that feeling, I'm just like, well, I hope someone on YouTube figured it out because I'm not going to get there.
And they have. It's there. I think that Pele commented that like the team were amazed by how quickly the detectives pried into things that they did not think that they'd put into the game. I mean, interestingly though, if people like, I'm not going to plug the book all the time, but in the book there is like the pages of Niklas's notebook where he wrote out the prospective backstory of this universe in a very freewheeling way. None of it is in the game. But it was very interesting to read through it and to read about the politics of this universe and like the species that are in this universe and that kind of thing. So I think Pele also said it's very important for him as a writer to have that in the back of his mind, even if he's not putting it onto the page. Yeah. Because at least he can write from a place of knowing. But yeah, I think it's always a balance with these things, right? Like how much do you give them? How much do you hide? How much do you allow them to infer? And Ultros errs towards the side of vagueness, intentionally so.
Vagueness in like little side details, I would say, but not. I did not get a vague feeling at all about like what is Ultros about. Like I finished the game and I was like, I have a very, very clear picture of the thought process and change in thought process that they intended for me to have as I played the game. And like to their credit, that is more important to me than like, do I know what Qualia's entire deal is?
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's not an explicitly told story, but the core is there and accessible for sure.
Right. So I ended up really enjoying it, but it was through that kind of like that emergent narrative combined with my thought process type of thing. And that works perfectly fine for me. And it is good to know that like people have solved it and found like, yes, the details, they match up, things make sense. And that the creators saw that and were like, man, y'all are really good at this.
Yeah.
Fan communities are insane. They continually surprise me.
I don't know how they do it, honestly. Like the kind of brain you need to have to look at 12 tablets with images on them and say, okay, well, that's clearly then. And this was the inciting event of this. And you're like, wait a second, like, are we looking at the same imagery here? Like, how are you operating on that level? I just don't get it. I'm like, that's cool, mysterious image. It's like about as far as I get. Like you can pull out a few details, but like not the, I'm not a notebook gamer though, I don't sit with a notebook on the side scribbling down details. But I think that if you are, then Ultros is a good candidate for all the notebook gamers out there to have some fun.
Yeah, I would agree. And you mentioned at the beginning like that you feel like the game hasn't like quite taken off to the level that you thought it might or that it probably deserves to, but to inspire those like passionate fans to really dig in, that's cool, because it would suck to have a a game that's like obviously so very rich in stuff, and then it comes out and people are like, we can't be fucked to dive deeper, and that's clearly not the case. So it's cool that people have been inspired like that.
Yeah, passionate fans for this game. I will say that I'm playing down how it did out there, only on the scale of Silksong. Like that, it's like 5 million in the first
sure.
5 million in 3 days. Ultros released a graphic saying 100,000 sold on the 1-year anniversary. 100,000 is nothing to sniff at, right?
Right.
But when you're talking about the scales to which these games can blow up, you could possibly, if that was your mindset, say this was like low performing compared to the ceiling, right? It did fine,
Yeah, fair enough. Well, part of that too is I think that Silksong is doing a lot more in the kind of traditional gameplay sense for Metroidvanias, where Ultros is definitely not. So we're going to take a music break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about what it's like to play Ultros. So Ultros is a side-scrolling Metroidvania. It follows the structure that you might expect from the game. You explore the map, you fight some stuff, you find upgrades that will allow you to reach new places and continuing to find more stuff. There is treasure to find if you explore in all the nooks and crannies. That treasure is really valuable too, so I felt very rewarded for exploring basically all the time. The game has a skill tree, but the first kind of wrench in the traditional thing is that this is a time loop game. That's not a spoiler. I think it's in the Steam description. It's not roguelike. I want to make that very clear. The world does not reset. The world is not randomly generated in any way. You have some things that stick around between loops, and then you have some ways to make other things stick around between loops. We'll talk about those maybe a little bit later. So just as the traditional Metroidvania type game, before this game starts throwing a bunch of creative stuff at us, you mentioned like the game has to feel good in order to enjoy it. You have the jumping, the movement especially has to feel good. It helps if the combat feels nice too, because you do have a pretty robust set of moves that you can do in combat. So just on that kind of baseline, movement, gameplay, how's it feel in your hands type level, how did Ultros work for you?
It took a bit of getting used to, but once I was there, I was really, really there. I think my main concern about the game going into it before I'd even picked it up was that heavily animated games sometimes suffer because the animation's running to keep up with what you want to do. I'm thinking about like Prince of Persia OG or Planet of Lana, like rotoscope games where your character's they're not just gonna turn, they're gonna turn slow. You're gonna see all the frames, frame, and by the time they are there, you're already trying to do something else. Ultros didn't fall into that trap, so even though it is line drawn, Uji is animated at a slower rate than everything else. I think it's like a 60 FPS game, and Uji's animated at 12 or 24 or something. And so you get that they're a bit more like a flick book or a cartoon. And so I think maybe that helped, but I think I found it responsive. I found it fluid. I found some of the nice little details in movement, like if you mantle, you will get a small speed boost if you do it just right. And so you end up like running fast, moving fast, and like getting into the feel of it. And I would say it's like nigh on perfect. There is maybe like a little extra that you can go. If you're playing Silksong right now and you've unlocked a couple of skills, you'll know that Hornet feels like a dust mote on the wind. It's like putting Ori to shame. It's just actual perfection. Ultros is not actual perfection, but to me, it felt right and it felt fluid.
Ultros to me felt like maybe not like the Metroid Dread level, but it felt very Metroid, but a little bit smoother, especially smoother than Super Metroid. Like in the way that you can build up speed as you run between rooms and jump between the ledges and mantle and all that stuff like that. I would be very surprised if I learned that they didn't play Metroid, the creators growing up, because it really feels like that.
Yeah, funnily enough, like Hugo, I think when Hugo first got involved with Ultros, it was because he is the Metroidvania guy in Stockholm.
There we go.
And they brought him in to play test and said, can you tell us what we're doing right and wrong? And he became the Metroidvania guy because he wrote an article for what was at the time called Gamer Sutra, which I think now is called GameDeveloper.com. And it was like about Metroidvanias. It was like, here are the tricks that Nintendo used, like the foundational stones of Metroidvanias from Super Metroid. And that's how he ended up working on the game. So yeah, it's in the DNA.
Yeah. Different combat and stuff from Metroid though. So this is where like I think the combat handles fine. It's not as smooth as a lot of other action-based combat systems. It's not like a super difficult game. I did find myself pressing the wrong buttons a lot of times. There were like a couple of maneuvers in combat where like I guess it's just like muscle memory from other games where like maybe Hollow Knight or something where you jump and press up and attack and you expect a swing up type attack. And that's not what happens in this game. The character, maybe it's just that like the movements don't always map to like the direction you're pressing on the D-pad or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I think when you pull down, you do the like diagonal down sort of darting kick that you can like bounce on them. But it's down and press rather than diagonal down. So yeah, it's not quite one for one.
Right. And then once you unlock the skill tree thing, the up and attack is like a sideways double attack in the air.
That's right. But slightly weird mapping. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But it feels like fine. Again, it's not super difficult. And you have a lot of stuff at your disposal. So if you like really master your combat toolkit, the game actually like incentivizes you to mix things up. It has this system where you are cutting with this knife when you attack, and enemies, when you defeat them, they'll always drop some meat, body part, or something like guts.
Stinky alien guts.
Right. But depending on how varied your attacks were, the quality of the thing that they drop will be better or worse. All the way up from like this pristine, perfectly, perfect sushi cut of like this animal you were fighting versus, a bloody pulp if you really, if you really messed
it's like Monster
it up.
Hunter, right? You either get the tail or you get like a dripping intestine. But I really like that like Uji, the named protagonist, right? Not named in the game,
right.
Named on the website, named on the Steam page, never named in the game. And that first track that you like is called Uji Saint. So it's Uji, yeah. And I think Uji will eat anything. And so when you have guts and you click eat, Uji will go like Hannibal Lecter the guts. It's really like gross and funny.
Right. So you're incentivized, you want to get better food because the food quality will affect how much it heals you, and each food gives you nutrients. There's 4 nutrient groups, and you use those nutrients to unlock things in the skill tree. So like certain skill tree nodes will take a certain amount of specific nutrients. So you want better stuff for better nutrients and better healing. The skill tree is interesting, and this is where we start to see other creative ideas that the game has. As you open up the skill tree, you'll notice you're like, okay, there's a wall cling, there's a wall kick that I can unlock. There's add a third hit to your combo. There's a couple midair maneuvers that you unlock. And then you start to look and you're like, there's a skill tree node to make compost. There's a skill tree node to like attract certain insects to you. And you're like, I've been going through the game killing all this stuff. What do I need these things for? And then you get this tool, this persistent tool across loops called the extractor, and you unlock different attachments for it or whatever that do different things. And like some of them are like kind of combat related, some of them are movement related, but a lot of them are gardening related. And the world is full of patches of soil. And part of your exploration rewards, sometimes you'll find a thing that's like useful for your character build. Sometimes you'll find a seed as a exploration reward. And that opens up the other side of the gameplay, which is planting stuff and interacting with plants. We said it's a gardenvania. So I remember looking at the skill tree the first time I looked at it and just being like, the compost thing, ignore. The other thing, ignore. I need more hits in my combo. And it took a while to see the utility and like the reason why you would want to focus on those gardening type things. But it does have a good use. What did you think when this started to unfold in your playthrough, if you can remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I mean, the skill tree in this game is called the Cortex.
Right.
And when you look at it, it's like it's almost like a beehive, like connections, like an organic shape.
Yeah.
Not the usual like A, B, C, unlock slightly better, slightly better. It's more like a network of things.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when you're eating, if you do a perfect variety kill and you get this pristine ingredient, and then you eat it, and then to heal, and then you see that like you've got 4 little gauges that are blue and yellow and red, and it's all of these strange ingredients, and that seems to be connected to what you're unlocking in the cortex. It's probably the most overtly psychedelic piece of the game, is that you are eating strange alien foods that is opening your mind to be able to think and do strange things that you weren't thinking you would do before. So there was definitely that element to it. And yeah, like the skill tree starts off pretty basic and normal, but as you get through it, you start noticing the mysterious ones, as you are saying, and like it doesn't tell you what they're for often. Like you do get a little prompt at the start when you meet the really cool character Gardner. I think it would be like Gudner in Swedish or something, but like he says like you can take a seed and plant it and look what happens. You know what I mean? There's something will happen in the environment. But you're not really prompted beyond that a lot of the time. And for a lot of the time, you're planting seeds, plant grows, it gives you fruit, and you're like, great, that's what that's for. And it's a matter of discovery, let's say, just seeing how all of those things go. It's pretty cool the way that you're guided down the path a little, but then left to walk the rest.
Yeah. I remember like being like, my favorite plant is the most basic one, the first one you get that kind of makes like a little tree that you can then jump on top of.
The cauliflower tree.
Right. So that you can get up to a ledge. They put this gardening spot right below a ledge. It's a little puzzle to plant the right thing to help you get up there.
I'm looking at the names of them right now. That one's called Ogumumin.
Yeah, that's right. They do have very good alien names to them. It starts out as like this really simple thing, but there's a lot more to it. We'll talk about that later, but I just want to plant that seed, if you will, that there's a reason why so much of your skill tree is devoted to this. And the classic Metroidvania upgrades that you get at set points throughout the game, they're not all combat and movement related. You get like a thing you can spray to kind of make plants bend a certain direction and stuff like that. And there's a good utility for stuff like that.
Yeah, lots of mysterious skills that are hinting at things that we can't talk about yet.
Yes. Well, is there anything else about the experience of playing Ultros that we want to talk about before we move into... we want to get to that spoiler section soon. I think we're both itching to talk about it.
I mean, I will say that if people are leaving us here like soon, but I mean, there's been some critique of Ultros from people like in the Gaming in the Wild Discord. I played it ahead of release and then came out all guns blazing, masterpiece, games of the year list for sure. Blew my mind. And then other people played it and they had mixed reactions. They said that they found themselves lost a lot. And they said that they found things inscrutable. But I don't know if I just got lucky or what. Or I think, you know what I think it is actually? I think that I did get lost a lot. I just didn't care. And I think that's because I was drinking the aesthetic offer of the game and the vibes of the game. So every time I was playing it, I was in a calm, heightened state in a way that is almost opposite to Silksong, where I'm mostly angry. Ultros put me in a really good mood, right? And so if the map was at all convoluted or I ran into dead ends, I was not feeling gamer frustration that like, where do I go now? What do I do? Why has this map got no pins on it? Which I think some people did feel. I was like, this is fine. I'm like, I get to spend more time in this world. And running through the corridors is a pleasure. And, just seeing what it is a pleasure. I feel like every time I'm looking at it, I'm soaking in more that's helping me to tune into what Ultros is doing. So I think I probably did get lost. I just maybe didn't notice as much.
It's interesting. Interesting to hear that. Like, I think the map in Ultros is very readable. It's very helpful. They do mark your major quest locations, we'll say, on the map. So you always know, like, generally what direction should I be heading in.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like, I don't want to sound like too rash about this, but like Metroidvanias are kind of a genre about being lost a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. I think the criticisms were more like explicit. It was like I got to this point and then there were 3 locked doors, and I'd been
right.
going around in circles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then they find one small hole in the floor. You know what I mean? I think some
Yeah.
people found that was a touch too obscure for them to have a smooth experience, and it was a complaint that surfaced in the reviews.
Okay.
But it didn't surface in my playthrough at all. Like,
No, not. I mean, there was nothing in Ultros that approaches bombing a random square in Super Metroid, in my
right.
opinion.
Yeah, it's
So,
definitely a modernized Metroidvania in that way. But I do
yeah.
think that if you love spending time in the game, and are willing to settle into your chair, and just take it in, then perhaps that's the way to go. You know.
Yeah. I will say that, like, I'm thinking of like a big thing that happened that helped me understand what I was supposed to do. And it borders on happening by accident, but I think it's probably set up in a way that it will happen by accident in a way that feels that way
Mm-hmm.
before you really know what you're doing. And then you're like, that light bulb goes off and you're like, okay, I know what I should do here. But I mean, if you get lost and you don't know, like I see the objective in this corner of the map and I can't get there. Like, what am I supposed to do here? That's a frustrating feeling. I get that for sure.
Yeah, that's the one. And the game doesn't have fast travel initially as well. And like, I think maybe if you're used to a traditional Metroidvania, it is a dogmatic format for a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a point where
Yeah.
it's like a half an hour of play, and then you get something, another hour, and you got your double jump. And this game does subvert it intentionally. It takes all of
Yeah.
the things that you know and love about Metroidvanias. It speaks the language of Metroidvanias, but just not in the dialect that you can understand. You have to
Mhm.
kind of understand that it's messing with what a Metroidvania is, right? And I think perhaps some of the more hardcore Metroidvania fans who just like to execute that game again and again and again would look at this one and say, "Why is it messing with me this way?" You know.
Mm.
But then, if you are a real Metroidvania fan, you love to see the genre pushed outwards and to grow. Then,
Yeah.
then that maybe the pain points of Ultros are growing pains.
Yeah. When I think back, it was either a simple thing like, I don't know how to get past that door, or it was like, this, I know what I have to do. It's going to be really hard. And I want to, like, I checked a guide for a couple things we'll talk about later, to give like a push in the right direction. But I never felt like I didn't know what to do or where to go. Which I do think they guide you pretty well in like where you can go. Like the map is designed in a way that you're not going to get into places probably that you're not supposed to be in or have nothing to do in yet. I always felt like I was making good progress, even if there were moments when I did need a little bit of help. I check guides when I need help all the time. It's not really unique to this game at all. And I need help in most games that I play at a certain point. So yeah. Kind of along those lines then, like who are we recommending Ultros to? I think that we've both said and we agree that like if you're looking for creative takes on the Metroidvania structure, perhaps none more creative than Ultros. But aside from them, like, do you think that the person who's playing Silksong right now and is just like really hooked on Metroidvanias, do you think that like Ultros is going to give them what they're looking for in another one? Or is there another type of player that it would appeal to?
There are a few types of player. I think like if you were the kind of player that is scrubbing through videos on YouTube, looking at like 20 indie games that are coming out in 2025. If you're the kind of person that is interested in variety of games and looking for oddities, then Ultros is a true oddity.
Yeah.
You found your game. Like pick this one up immediately. If you're a Metroidvania fan who is either like soft focused Metroidvania fan who enjoys the odd Ori, or you are a hardcore Metroidvania fan who's got like a library on your wall of physical copies, both of those people can come to this game and get something out of it.
Mhm.
People who like aesthetic games will get something out of it too. and people that like sci-fi.
Yeah.
Fans, like, this is crazy shit. Come and check it out. It's really
Yeah.
out of its gourd sci-fi. It's really excellent.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, for sure. Yeah. I would simply say that, like, I think this is a game structure that anyone who's an hour deep into my podcast, you probably know about the Metroidvania structure. You probably played some. You know whether you like it or not. It does follow that, but it is really, really creative. And if you are looking for cool, creative games, this is one that you should definitely have on your radar. Like, I find a lot of value in, like, people like you who introduced me to a lot of cool creative games. And I'm always looking for, like, I want my bread and butter, my favorites, but I'm also looking for those cool, I've said cool like 6 times in the last minute, but I'm looking for, like, new takes on things. People who come into game dev with, like, weirdo left field ideas. And I think that does a really good job of, like, melding weirdo creative ideas with a structure that you can read the Steam page and be like, Metroidvania, I have an idea. And it does enough with what you know to then, like, let you be onboarded onto the things that you don't know, if that makes sense. It's really well done. Like, the pacing of it is really well done, I think.
Yeah, it's an effective mystery, right? Both in gameplay and story terms.
Yeah. Well, we have spoilers coming up to dive into that. So we always start with plugs, starting with what the guest is up to. So as I said at the top of the show, John, you host the Gaming in the Wild podcast, the YouTube channel Gaming in the Wild, and of course the Lost in Cult DesignWorks Ultros book, which at the time that people hear this, you should still be able to pre-order and get your hands on it. It's going to be a really cool book. So tell the people about the things that you make.
Yeah, Gaming in the Wild, a podcast that comes out most weeks, with reviewing games, talking about some news, occasional guests, one of whom was Hugo Bille of Ultros fame. That episode is there in the background somewhere. There is a long review of Ultros that I did on the podcast. It's Gaming in the Wild. It's on everything except Spotify, because no to Spotify, boycott Spotify. But you can find it everywhere else. There's also a YouTube channel that sprang from the podcast and has somewhat grown to overshadow it. So that's a bit different. It's like shorter, snappier videos. But the Gaming in the Wild YouTube has been popping lately. And the podcast goes on there too. There is a podcast feed in there. And yeah, the Ultros book, it's at lustincult.co.uk/Ultros. It's the ultimate celebration of this game. It's got all of the contents of Nicholas's sketchbooks, notebooks. It's got interviews with everyone who was involved. I wrote it as well, so it's got some of my flavor in there. If you get the collector's edition, which is pricey but super cool, if you know Lost in Cult, you'll know what I mean. It's got a CD on it where I interview Rat Vader, and he plays to me raw jungle sounds, and then treated sounds, and then describes the process of changing them from strange birds to alien wildlife. And that's a 1-hour podcast that will only be in that box on a CD.
Nice.
There's also like an art book. There is new poetry by the writer of the game written in response to Ultros, will be in the collector's edition as well. You can still pick that up. I don't think there are many left probably. There is also a base edition that's 50 quid. So I'm super proud of the Ultros book. In fact, Dave, just before I popped on to talk to you, I was sent the PDF proof to look at. So the design just blew my hair back. They got La Boca doing the design. They found a designer who vibes with the visual language of Ultros. So it's just going to be a beautiful thing, man. And it's been like a journey creating it. So long plugs, but that's me done.
You got a lot of stuff that's worth plugging for sure. I was just super happy for you when you announced that you had the book project. And then obviously Ultros as the game. I'm looking forward to seeing what I see from the book. It's really exciting. In your podcast, we've talked about it on your previous appearances on the show, but still a basically weekly listen for me. I love what you do. I love the mix of games that you cover and your approach. And we talked about, you finding cool creative games out of left field. Your podcast and now the YouTube channel is a great resource for finding that, those kinds of games like Ultros. Like, if you think that this game is interesting, but, a little overshadowed by others in the genre, we'll say. Like, I think that you do good work on shining the light on games like this.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I used to do these like, if you're looking at games a lot, you look at what's coming out and you note them all down, right? You're like, oh, that looks cool, that looks cool, that looks cool. And I realized that I had this working document of like 30 games coming out. And I was like, why am I not making something out of this? It's just for me. And so I started making like at the start of every month, a video that is like 10, 20, 30 indie games that are coming out that month with video footage on the YouTube channel. So you can look at them, flick through the timestamps and find something. And that's turned out to be, it's just part of the work I was doing anyway. And people are really enjoying that. So yeah, indie games, you can find them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I will put links in the show notes as always to the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the Lost in Cult website. You can check out the book. And I did my plugs at the top of the show, but a call to join the Discord server if you want to join a community of nice folks who talk about games and everyday goings on as well. We're not just in there talking about the podcast. We have, by the time you hear this, is probably still a lively Silksong channel as we make our way through that behemoth of a game. But if you love Ultros and you want to come in and talk about Ultros too, now's a good time to do that. There's a public invite link in the show notes for the Discord.
Can I just say, actually, I popped into your Discord that like there's a Silksong channel in the Gaming in the Wild one as well. And it's been like an emotional channel. Like people are like activated by this game and like we've been having it out about this game. And I popped into your Discord to see what the tone was like. And it was so mild that everyone was just kind of like, they were just like quietly chatting about it. And the Gaming in the Wild one feels like they opened the cages at the zoo and we're all just like running around like it's so hard. And like the vibe in your Discord is real nice, real good bunch of people in there and like real knowledgeable game people. I pop in there and like the depth of knowledge of the people that gravitate to your podcast is really something. You've got a good thing going on there.
Well, thank you. I agree with you. I feel the same way. And there's a lot of crossover between our communities, of course, but
I feel like I should qualify that. Like the Gaming in the Wild community is not like the cages open at the zoo. They're a nice bunch. They're a lovely bunch. It's just that one channel.
The Gaming in the Wild Discord is actually like the complete opposite of like, just chaos and anger all the time. It's one
super
of the
calm and kind.
one of the nicest places on the internet for sure. But yeah, Silksong just is bringing it out of a lot of us. Maybe people are angry posting about it in your server and then they come into mine with their collected thoughts after the fact or something. I don't know. But.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, maybe it's the type of people that are in the Gaming in the Wild one are maybe not the Souls. There's a couple of Souls guys in there, but most of us are Firewatch guys. You know what I mean? So perhaps we're having a slightly different experience.
That's right. We do have quite a bit of like the Souls crowd in my server too.
But that maybe explains the calmness with Silksong's difficulty. I want
to clarify that too. We have the good part of the Souls community. We don't have like the good assholes in my server. So, So Discord, it's a fun place. Please join us. Come hang out. We're gonna take a break now, and when we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Ultros. Before we get to full spoiler time for Ultros, I would like to thank the wonderful people who support the show on Patreon. A big thank you goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Vicori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rob Smith, Rigamort, Sil Canet, Ashton Ruby, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Yorkie Duval, Aaron, Squill, and many more. Thank you all for your support. It really helps out, and it means a lot to me. You are the recipients of my everlasting love and respect. Congratulations. If anyone out there would like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/realdavejackson, where you'll get a lot of treats in addition to the knowledge that you're doing a good thing. Coming up at the beginning of October, we will have a new poll. I have one every month, and all patrons can vote in that. And there should be the Tales from the Way backlog episode soon about Zelda the Wand of Gamelon. So once again, thank you for your support. Thank you for considering it if you're thinking about joining up. Now's a good time. So with all that being said, let's get on to full spoilers for Ultros. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time now for Ultros. And if you don't want to be spoiled on like the big thing, it's coming up soon, the big twist, the big cool thing the game is doing. We're not going in a linear way through the game. So if you're like, I don't know, you played a few hours and you don't want to be spoiled, please go finish the game and come back. We will be here when you're ready. So I wanted to get your take on this and kind of just like the way that I naturally played the game and the way the game, I feel like the game commented on the way I was playing and then pushed me in a different direction. So when you were playing, did you start? So like, I guess we'll set up around the map. There are these, I think there's 8 dudes in incubation tanks, we'll say. They're called the Shamasals, I think. And you go around and you find them. There's not a whole lot you can do to interact with them except smash the glass and kill them. So that's what I did. I went through the map. You smash the glass, you kill them, you get this couple frame like comic style animation of really trippy, like, you know, smashing the glass, someone kind of reeling back. There's a blood spatter.
Right, it's like a mini cutscene with some illustrations, right?
Right. And then there's a room in the map with these statues of them. And as you kill them, as you go in the room, they break and they're all bloody. It's kind of gross and jagged. This was how I naturally played. This was what I thought I was supposed to do in Ultros. So I guess a 2-part question, was this how you played it? And you've obviously talked to more people about this, including the creators. Is this the intent for them to have you start killing? Because that's what we do in video games. We kill what's in front of us.
Right. Yeah, that's all you can do. All you can do is break them. I broke the first one. I thought maybe these are bad dudes imprisoning something. Like maybe, you know, it's just what the game wants me to do. Let's take them out and move on. But yeah, as things progress, it turns out that there is another way. I did ask them, is there like a valid pacifist route through the game? The answer is no. And that's a conversation that surprised me. There are elements of a pacifist route that we can talk about a little bit later if you want to, in regard to bosses and certain things. But there is no way not to break the glass on at least the first shaman.
Right, because you wouldn't be able to get the abilities.
Yeah.
I think the double jump is the first one that you kind of need a double jump in a Metroidvania.
Yeah. I think if there is a pacifist way, they said maybe if there is a pacifist way, it's glitchy.
Right. You can't access the beginning of the living network unless you have that, I suppose.
And I think, you know what, if there are people that are still listening just because they like the podcast, and if they have any inkling that they might play Ultros, I really urge them to check out now, because we're going to spoil some stuff that is so fun to discover. So please do heed that spoiler warning.
I agree. Very, very cool thing to kind of slowly realize as you're playing that there's another way to do this. So you said you killed 1. Did you end up killing all 8? Did you get the ending? Yeah,
I did. I got the escape ending, let's say.
Right.
We're through spoilers now, right? So we can just talk about it.
Yeah, anything
the first
goes,
ending, if you break all of those shaman glasses, then you can bug out completely. Like the ship is vibrating. It's in a terrible state. You've dealt with qualia. Everything is wrong. And then Garden is like, I'm out. I'm going to take my little space pod and leave. Do you want to come? You can say yes. You will get credits. And you will get the sort of, they call it the escape ending. I think it's a reference to, what game did they say again? Can you think of a game that has an escape ending? Early credits. They said it was another like, pixel arty. I can't remember what game it was. Sorry, but yeah, the escape ending. So you can bug out. But I felt on those credits so dissatisfied.
Yeah, partly dissatisfied, partly like a feeling that like that can't be it. Partly a feeling that I had done something horribly wrong, because you did do something horribly wrong. But also there was that part where I was like, I had looked at how long to beat. I know how to beat. I know it's not a 6 or 7 hour game. I know there's more here. So there is more here. Did you get the feeling as you were killing the shamans that you were doing something? Because like there's the character Qualia who's like really upset that you're doing this. But she's upset for an interesting reason. She's not like, no, they're innocent. Don't do that. She's kind of like, this is my destiny. You're stealing my destiny type of thing.
Right.
But there's other stuff that like just gives you this real unease about what you're doing here.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, video games like, okay, here's my destination. Here is my map marker.
Mm-hmm.
I paused for sure. I was like, what can I do? I jumped around the room a little bit. I poked around. I tried to cut the cords on the tank or whatever. And I was like, okay, there's nothing else to do here. I guess that's what we're doing. And then smashed the tanks. So in the gamey sense, you've just reached your objective and you are happy.
Yeah.
As for what smashing the tanks means, I was like just really unsure. I think I was in a whirl of like not knowing what's happening in the game. Like I don't know what they're doing. They are like the color scheme of the game. They are purple. They are the color of the infection sort of vibe, right? They're like, they look a bit wrong. They're like, there's some dark energy around them. And so when you break them, I think maybe my instinct reading the color scheme was I'm doing something right. Like I'm stopping something bad from happening. So I think that was the inkling that I had, but there was definitely some nebulous confusion about what it all meant that persisted until the end.
Yeah. And I had wondered also, like, I'm pretty sure that this thing in the central chamber, Ultros, is bad. But what if it's not? Like, what if these things are holding this thing in, and I'm supposed to be doing this again? Like, there's an inherent logic that you just like go into video games knowing, or like inherent like morality that you start with, where you're like, I'm doing the right thing because I'm playing a video game. I'm a hero. And no matter how many games I play that subvert that, I still start every game with that idea. And so it's not until you kill it, you're like, it's pretty brutal when you kill them. And then I think someone fairly early mentions, because after you kill them, there's this trail of it looks like a trail of like spiritual energy or something, purple trail.
Ghost trail.
Yeah. And you're supposed to follow that back to the main chamber where Ultros is held. And someone described that as emotion, I believe. So then I was like, killing them releases this emotion that breaks the locks on Ultros. And the way that those statues shatter in this bloody mess is really gross. And it's like, you just start to get the feeling like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this.
Yeah, definitely. There's some kind of fragile stasis going on in the station, right? The station feels like something happened here. It had a purpose. That purpose is gone. It is now overgrown, mostly empty, and it has this ghastly energy in the middle of it. And whenever you go there, you get the vibe in the central Ultros chamber that this is a bad place. There is a bassy rumble. There is discordant sound. It is bubbly and purple and foreboding, and you're like, something bad is in here. And then you go around and you pick up bits here and there, right? So you chat to people and they'd start telling you about harvesting the dark energy, and they start telling you about Ultros is the cradle of the demon, and it's supposed to be born, or is it like, what's it doing? And like you get hints. And so you're aware that something has happened here. You're not quite sure what it is. The whole thing seems kind of bad, like this trapped horrible demon. And these people that are like, containing it, or imprisoning it, like you just don't know. So, but there is like an element of, throughout the game, there is a lot of talk about bad thoughts. There is a lot of talk about like anxiety and sponges for anxiety. And so you do get these hints of what is happening here, but never quite enough pieces to fill in the jigsaw.
Yeah. It was always like, I have a feeling something's wrong here, but I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to continue with this, and I'm just going to see what happens when I kill the last one. What happens is Qualia, who's like this NPC that pops up, she's the one who gets she gets upset with you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to kill her in that ending, which definitely didn't feel great. Like she stands in opposition to what you're doing, but never felt like an antagonist, like a villain. So it felt bad to kill her.
Do you straight up
And
kill her?
yeah,
I know there's a
yeah,
boss fight. I didn't realize that you just actually like ended her.
I can't remember if I
She's like panting on the floor. It's like you beat her.
yeah. Okay.
beat her.
Maybe I used kill as like a shorthand for defeat in a video game way, which, I think Ultros wants me to think about that a little bit too. So there's also the gardener character. So like we have all this violence happening, right? Like we're going around, we're smashing these tanks, we're slicing up these animals. There's that section where you have the three sisters who are in like the rec area of the station, and you kill them the first time you come across them, and you're just cutting down plants left and right too. You get this spinning saw attachment that just takes everything out ahead of you. But you have the gardener character who's like the first one you talk to in a lot of the loops, and he's like this just very chill, in tune with nature type of character that he's like a big contrast with everything else that you're doing in the game. Have you ever heard of like you've heard of like the trope of like the magical janitor, or like the wise worker or whatever like that? Definitely felt like that type of character, where like, or like an Ati from Control, like Gardner's been here so long, he's part of the ship type of thing. I got that kind of vibe from Gardner, but their vibe is so different from everything else happening in the game. I felt a little bit of like gravitation to like, I got to find out what Gardner's deal is, because that's probably the secret. That's the truth.
Yeah, I got a feeling from the characters, because Gardner is the cuddly one. He's like your only friend on the station, and he's come there to discover. He's an explorer and he's a botanist, and he was drawn to the station to find seeds. He's all about the seeds. He tells you through his dialogue that he's trying to impress people back home, and that this is a rite of passage for him, and that he's come to the station to discover something new and take it back to the gardening worlds. What's it called again? The sodality is the name of his culture.
Okay.
And then you meet Vasa, who came to the station to hunt. Is a hunter, wants to kill, wants to discover animals to kill and do her noble hunting. Then you meet a couple of other characters. Everyone has come for a different reason. And so I think they're referred to as the dwellers. They are the lost souls, the waifs and strays who have found the sarcophagus through space and ended up there for very different reasons. And each of them is trying to get what they want from the sarcophagus. And what they want is very different. And they've all responded very differently to the time loop, the circumstances, the energy coming from Ultros. And that made me feel like I too am one of them. Like I too have come to this station in search of something, not sure what. And it gave me the feeling that like all of the characters are each trying to interpret what is happening in the same way as the player. And that each time that we get to know a character a little, we get to understand one perspective on how you can view the station. But what the station is, like no one has the answer, but they all hold parts of it. Maybe Qualia holds the biggest part, as she is actually involved in the running of the place and understands its purpose, perhaps more than everyone else. But you're just an interloper. You interfere with her life by doing what you're doing. She's not happy about it. Gardner is like, oh, maybe you're going to be the one that changes things because I want to leave. You know what I mean? Like everyone's kind of just in it together. And I really like that as a way of differentiating characters, actually, that they're all in it for different reasons and have different understandings of what is happening.
It's good to hear you like lay those out like that kind of in a row, because as I was playing, the NPCs like really reminded me of like Dark Souls NPCs, where like they're talking and they're talking about relevant things, but I have a really hard time like internalizing what they say or connecting it to anything that would help me really understand the story more fully. So like I have like snapshots of like what the characters are about, but had a really hard time like putting them in their place in like the big picture. But definitely, like you said, like they represent different takes on what's going on and what should be done and stuff like that. And it's funny you mentioned like your character's role in this. Uji, you said? Yeah, Uji's role in this, because it kind of shifts, and especially after you get that ending, and you probably feel really bad about what you did and how things played out. Like Ultros is set free, and I think you remember you get this screen of like your ship leaves with Gardner, but Ultros kind of consumes that space around the ship and around the planet, and you're like, that's not what we wanted to see.
Right.
So,
is it like the end of the universe ending? You know, does
Yeah.
Ultros like become all? It's something like that. It feels
Right.
apocalyptic. So you're not sure if you
Yeah.
really did escape.
right. Yeah, you can run, but you can't hide. It's gonna, if it's consuming everything, it's gonna get you too. But it feels bad. So combined with maybe some outside knowledge of like how long the game is supposed to be, but just that general unsatisfying feeling that like this can't be the ending. You go back and you start tooling around some more.
There are also some quite explicit things you haven't done right. Like there are mysterious statues that
Yeah.
say awaiting program.
Yes. Yes.
And there are like there are loads of bits of unsolved Metroidvania stuff.
Right.
I think
like
that's
metal
what drew me
doors.
back. I was like, I have not solved the mysteries that I need to know, you know?
True. Yeah. I had wondered about those, and I had wondered, is that just like an ultra secret that, if you do some certain thing around, you'll unlock those doors and you can go in there and, fight extra bosses.
To me, it was like I'm missing the skill. Like I need that. It's like Metroidvania stuff. It's like I need to unlock the code breaker or whatever to get these open. So the game really did feel like half finished for me, you know?
I mean, your intuition is correct in a way. So do you remember, like, how did you start the Living Network connection? Like, what did it happen by accident? How did you figure out that this is what you're supposed to do?
I remember going to Infinity Lake, where the Nopper sisters are, playing out their part of the game, and then you come out the bottom of the ship, and you're like hanging in space, right? And there's a couple of platforms leading down. So you follow them down and you find the source of some signal. And as you jump back up towards the ship, there are some nodes along the way, like flower buds. And every time that you get to one, there is an explosion of light on the screen. And there is a sound that is like an orchestral stab that goes like, Jin! And you're like, oh my God, I did something good. And then you do it to the next one, and you realize that the trail of light that is behind you, chaining you to that initial spot, is every time it hits a bird, it activates that bird, and then you can chain it to the next bird and the next bird. If you go too far without hitting a bird, then the light trail vanishes and breaks. You've lost the connection. So you have to go back to that last bird. And then, I understood immediately what I was supposed to do. I was like, I've been seeing these birds all over the ship for the whole game, and I've been not knowing what they are for. And now it seems like I am, by doing this, bringing some kind of energy and life back to this environment that was not there. And I felt it. I'm like, this is it. This is the game now. This is what we're supposed to do here. We're supposed to reconnect this ship and bring light back to it. And I found it to be like a jaw-dropping, door-opening in my mind light bulb moment of like, oh wow, the game has just changed, you know?
It is a real light bulb moment to realize like your fundamental interaction with the game is so different now. Can you remember down in the spacey area where you first get the first node of the network? I think there's a shaman thing like right next to it, right? Did you connect those two? Was that your first one?
I think I followed the trail of birds back into the ship, and it just sort of led me there. If you follow the trail, then you kind of get there.
But like the first part, like down in the spacey area, there's a tree and stuff like that. In my memory, there's one right next to it. And I think that's supposed to be the game telling you, because it's so close, you'll probably go touch it. Like,
I don't remember.
I might be misremembering that.
I think for me, in my memory at least, the light was coming from some mysterious place, and that it took me a while to get it to a shaman. In my memory, you could be right. in my memory, getting it to a shaman was like happenstance, but I could be wrong about that.
So I definitely did that other one first. I just looked at a map. It looks like there is one down there in that area where you first collect the first node, but that wasn't the first one I did. I took it up and over to the left into that area where those
Same.
sisters were too.
Same.
Because that's where the buds like naturally lead you there. So I think that there's I think they wanted you to like accidentally hit that one that's like right next to it. And it's this big moment. You get a new cutscene when you kind of revive them. And not only do you revive them, they're like glowing and floating and stuff now. It's like they've ascended or something like that.
You've plugged them into something else.
Yeah, something greater. It almost happened like me just trying to figure out this new mechanic that I discovered led me to connecting the shaman. But I did this after I did all the killing and all the bad ending and stuff like that. It was just me like walking around revisiting locations that I remembered seeming important, going back to the incubator, the tube sites, and because they're still marked on your map, even after you've destroyed them. So that becomes the second half of Ultros is you need to connect all of these to the network. You're basically, what you end up doing is connecting basically all corners of the ship to the network as well. I wonder what your take on this is. So do you think that this shift works better because it's a shift from the violent, bloody first half of the game into this peaceful cultivation and connection focused second half of the game? Had the game been like this from the beginning, do you think it would have been as impactful?
Good question. I mean, I think if Ultros didn't have the back half, if it didn't have the living network, it would not be in my pantheon. It would be like a really cool little Metroidvania. And I think it's the living network part of the game that really elevates it to me. It's like the inscription-y switch. It's the rug pull. And it's a shift of perception for sure. I remember talking to Hugo about it. But I think the thing that actually gave me another realization in the game, just to go very slightly off topic, but not really. There is a skill that you can unlock in the cortex that allows you to run past animals, right?
Yeah.
And when you plug that in, 1 minute you're running through the ship, killing everything and harvesting its guts and going, and then the next minute you're like Tarzan in the jungle, like, and you're like, oh my God, I'm a part of this with them. Like we're kind of, that mental shift was also really important to me in the game when I went from aggressor to part of an ecosystem. And I remember talking to Hugo about it and saying there's these big mental shifts in the game. And he said that's what's needed because you can't tell someone to have like a transcendental moment or a switch of mind. You can't just give them the information and expect it to happen. So it had to be self-guided and it had to feel like discovery because then you're like, well, I have discovered this and now I know this and that has changed. And like, so you open up in that way. So it's a really clever piece of design to allow that experience. It's like laying the ground for you to have that experience without giving it to you explicitly, which would not have worked.
Agreed. Like, I think that there's a lot of video games that kind of play with the way that you expect to interact with the world and the characters and stuff like that. And, a lot of games make it a point to be like, why do you start the game by killing everything? And you assume that that's what you should be doing here. And I think that Ultros like definitely takes that beginner expectation and then it throws that realization, or it guides you toward that realization. We'll say that that's not actually what this game is all about. This game is about connection, and your role in here is not as like the killer like you were earlier. You are the connector. So you mentioned like, what is our character's role here? Maybe this isn't what they originally came for, but this is what they become. This is the role they take on. And I think that had the game just started with, Gardner is here and he's saying, oh, the living network has been destroyed and we need you to go pick it back up and connect all the places, it definitely wouldn't have been as strong.
Agreed.
So really, really well done here.
It's a hard thing to do, right? It's a hard thing to do. Like, I think about games like Immortality, games like Inscription, where there's something more than you know. And like, how do you organize the player finding out the thing is really hard to do. You have to conceal it for so long, and then it has to feel right when it comes. So it's one of the game design tricks that I have the most respect for, and it's a game design trick that's in a lot of my favorite games, where what you think you know is turned on its head. And Ultros is one of the games that pulls that off. And when I'm talking about Inscription and Immortality, I'm talking about two of my games of the year from those years.
Right.
And Ultros pulls off the trick on the same scale, but in a really interesting gameplay way. It's not conceptual. It's gameplay that you're doing. You know, the concepts are there, but it's gamey. You're connecting things. You're platforming. You're getting really rewarding, bright effects on the screen. So it's kind of gamey, and it brings you along for the ride conceptually as well. It's just very, very deftly done.
I think that, I like to think that I start each game that I play as a blank slate, and I'm ready to take in what this game is about. But there are inherent things about certain types of game that you start a Metroidvania and you get a sword, and then you see some creatures that hurt you if they touch you, and you're like, all right, I got to chop them up. And then the game teaches you, hey, vary up your moves to chop them up real nice like, and then you'll get some nice food out of it. And it's interesting that they feed into the expectation that you have of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. All they're really doing is telling you that like, this is a way to do it, and they're hiding the way from you. And it takes a while for you to get there. I wonder if everyone just accidentally discovers the network nodes, and then, like you said, they're so bright and pleasing to make a new connection that you're like, I should keep this rolling. And you open up your map screen, and there's that shiny trail of where the network extends to, and that kind of like reinforces that this is now the game. It's funny, like I would be curious, anyone out there who's still with us, like John and I both, discovered this after doing the whole violent bad part of the game, right? I wonder if anyone, got down there, because that's not the last node, or that's not the last shaman thing that you interact with. It's like in the middle, if I remember the order that I did.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder if anyone figured it out halfway, and, because I definitely didn't. It took me being like, I'm unsatisfied. I wonder what else is here for me to figure it out.
I think I had discovered it already. I think I had discovered a bit of the living network and been like, oh, that's cool.
It's cool,
and then I had gone and killed all the shaman, gotten the ending, and been like, I think I should do that network thing.
Okay.
Maybe that's how it worked for me. Maybe it is. I can't quite put it together. I think there is actually a break point when you're first bringing the signal into the ship where it's like, oh, I can't take it anywhere else. Back to shaman killing.
Right.
And then there's like a whole bunch of puzzles that are built into it, right? Like you have to learn how to grow plants, because there are some rooms that are barren. Yeah. You cannot grow there. And so that's a big part of the puzzle is like, because it's a complex puzzle. It turns out that connecting the living network is way hard and forces you to interact with the systems of the game in a way that you have not. So I think maybe there was a natural break point that led to me dropping the connection. Mm-hmm. Or like a door I couldn't open yet. You know what I mean?
Right. Or like you said, a room that doesn't have a node.
So it's a loose end.
Yeah, I definitely had just left it down there. Like, I don't think I took the living network out of that spacey room the first time I was there. I think it just broke because I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. the second half of the game, you need to take the living network to all the reaches and connect the Shamasols back to it. So the puzzle of it is figuring out how, because you need to create nodes so that limited trail will take you there. And this is where all of those skill tree things that you're like, why do I need to make compost? Who the hell would spend a point on that? Why do I need the sprayer attachment on the extractor? Why would I need to splice plants together? Gardener told me that if I feed enemies, they'll make soil in their area. But why do I need soil there? Like, I'm just running through that room, all of those things suddenly click into piece. And you're like, this ship-wide puzzle basically takes shape. I also think it's interesting when you start this like second half, Gardener, you don't have to go down and pick your sword up in the old place. Gardener like puts it closer to the starting zone, and it leads you into Gardener's area of the ship in the second half of the game. Did you ever start a run without your sword?
No. I think there is some achievement you can get for that, right? There's some reason to do it. I think there's like a hidden door. There is a hidden door somewhere in the station that you cannot enter with a weapon.
Okay.
I never did it. That was one. That was like the fragile flower in Hollow Knight. It was a step too far for me.
I always
so
just
if you don't pick
like,
up your sword, you can get to the secret room that I have not been in.
Okay. I thought about it, but I always just had that thing in the back of my head, like, what if something's blocking a door and I got to kill it, something like that. But it's very much presented as like, hey, you don't really need this thing anymore.
Yeah, true. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a really good point. I'd thought about it as like a gameplay design thing, so you don't have to go and get all your shit all the time. They're like, here's your shit. You can just start doing whatever you want to do now. We're
Definitely
in the late game
too.
kind of thing.
It was just like one little bit of dialogue from Gardener where he was like, I'm not sure if you still need this, but I brought it up here.
Good
Something
point.
like that.
I'd missed the significance of that. It's a good catch.
Mm-hmm. So the way that you connect the network is you need to plant stuff all over the ship. And most plants will have a network node, flower bud on them. And even the ones that don't, you can make them if you figure out what is special about this plant? What do I need to do to get this plant to a point where it will create a flower? And that's the puzzle. That's figuring out, okay, so what are my MVP plants? What are the easy plants? And then maybe this plant is like a bit more challenging to get a node, but it is the right plant for this room and the distance between nodes that I have. Or maybe I just like, my MVP plant, I don't have any more seeds for that one. Got to figure out something else. So what were the most valuable plants for you on the quest to connect the ship?
There were two. There was there's the most annoying plant in the game is Staccati, which is like a Monstera style plant that when planted will grow to fill an entire space. And it will have like troubling electrical nodes that shock your character. And at the start of the game, it's a Metroidvania blockage. And you're like, I hate that plant. I can't wait until I get the chainsaw. Then you eventually get the chainsaw and you can take it all out, right? And you're like, fuck, Staccati. It's not my thing. Like, it's in the way all the time. Hate it. But then in the late game, you realize that because you have the trimmer and splicer, you can copy paste a piece of a plant into your inventory, have it with you at all times, and then graft it onto another plant, right? And Staccati is the only plant where if you take that horrible electrical node and have it in your inventory, you can graft that onto another plant. It's the only graftable flower. So Staccati's flower can be put onto any plant in the game and you've got an instant node. So that became like the one. I used that for half the network, just always having a Staccati flower. Other than that, I think there's a plant called Oigas, which is the plant that's like a little spurting, like a nose, and it just puts like blood out, like a proboscis, and it sprays out blood, and the blood rolls down slopes and fills an environment. Everywhere the blood falls, there is a flower, grows. So that became like vastly useful. But only in vertical spaces. I think it was also my favorite because it was the weirdest, most alien plant. A lot of them bear some resemblance to plants on Earth, Like it's a tree. It's it's like a cauliflower tree. Cool. But Ogas was like, oh, this is a blood splurting alien Star Trek weirdo. So I just kind of liked it for that reason. How about you?
No, those two are definitely awesome, especially for like the long vertical, ascents. You don't really have to worry about like making a bunch of individual patches of soil with those, because they just take care. If you can get to the top with the one that shoots the blood plants, that'll just take care of that entire shaft for you.
Yeah, and as part of the puzzle, you're looking at the map thinking, how can I get the signal through either this maze, which is full of baddies and no planting spaces, or up this shaft, which is like, and so you're like, well, getting to that shaft is difficult. So you have to re-understand the map in a whole different way and be like, how far can I carry the signal? Where is there a planting spot? Which plant can I use in this space for that purpose? And there were times when I came to dead ends. I was like, I've taken it as far as I can. I remember going up the right-hand side of the ship and I was like, I cannot like figure this out. Like, I don't know, what do you want from me, game kind of moment.
Yeah.
And so I went another way and found another way. And they did say that like there is a countless number of ways that you can employ all the mechanics of the games to design the ship to your ends and take the signal almost anywhere.
There's a scanner attachment. You can scan enemies to see what kind of foods they like, and if you give them a food with the nutrient that they like, they'll make a patch of soil. So you can create a patch of soil anywhere that there's an enemy, which when Gardner first told me about that, like 3 hours into the game, I was like, yeah, sure, buddy, whatever. And then later on in the game, it's like, I'm like, all right, buddy, what kind of food do you like? Let me see if I got something for you. Making patches of soil. There's a mechanic you just kind of figure out in that refinery section that the living network will never leave you if you're in the orange goo.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. That was the hardest one. That, and then the Pantheon of the Stars, which is like the top part of the map, was the hardest ones for me. There was a connection to Gardner's.
Real tough puzzles. There's some real tough puzzles in this section. Like, there were times when I was like, mad. But I was still sort of filled with wonder at the same time. But there were times where I was like, can I really be bothered? But I did push through. And there were definitely moments where I was pushing through. When there's a high ledge that you need to get to, you can't jump there. There's no planting spot. The signal breaks anywhere you go, but you need to get there. And so I ended up putting like a vine tree and like painstakingly spraying it down, trying to get a flower. Yeah. And eventually get a flower. And I'm like, I can just reach it if I jump. And it was like a hassle, man. It was a hassle, but it's real like puzzle, self-guided, free-form puzzling labor in this like really interesting way.
And it's super satisfying when you go through all that work to get a plant, like you said, to bend just enough for you to do what you need to do. And you get that connection. You're like, this is awesome. Like it comes from your understanding of how these plants work and your creativity. And it's awesome when you come up with stuff like that.
Yeah. A sense of play. There's a sense of play in there.
Yeah. So the brambles, those were like the best. I would just throw those basically anywhere. RIP to anyone else who's trying to walk through the ship. But I would put those anywhere. The one that served me the best, I didn't figure out until late, is the green, like mossy vines that grow on the ground. And if you just plant them, they normally don't sprout a flower. So for a while I was like, what is their purpose other than to just, look nice or whatever? But if you can get them to grow to a corner, to an edge of a ledge, they'll sprout a bud at a corner. So you can splice one half of the big carpet onto the other half and just extend it out that length.
Yeah, I did that too. You're right. That was like another fun light bulb moment.
Yeah, that one was good. And then just like the first half of the game, I picked up a couple pieces of compost and I was like, I don't think I'll ever have a use for this. And then the thing with the plants is across loops, they grow. You also get a mechanic where you can just end a loop immediately and kind of restart. So if you need plants to grow, you can do that, but you also can dig up compost or make it and make the plants grow without doing the loop thing. So I was always rolling around with like 3 or 4 pieces of compost, always checking the map. Again, I remember in the first half of the game, I did some stuff to get into a weird corner of the map and find some treasure, and it's a compost map. Like, what do I need this for? I was hoping to get one of those memory lock things for the skill tree. But the compost map becomes your best friend in this second half of the game. So yeah, you go through and you puzzle out pretty painstakingly, in my case, room by room, how do I take this network from these corners of the map and connect them?
Did you find I mean, because you did it pretty quickly, right? You did it overnight. I left you 1 minute. 1 minute you were like, "I'm done,"
yeah.
and then the next I was like, "No, you're not." And then the next day you came back and you were like, "I'm done."
I think
for me it was a couple days, a couple sessions. There were times when I was frustrated and took a break. But during a lot of that gameplay, I was in like a trance, man. It was a rush doing it because you get such a lovely audiovisual reward and you have such a sense of surprised purpose when you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That I felt motivated in a way that I am rarely motivated whilst playing a video game.
Right. It just, contrasting with what you were doing, it now feels like I have a purpose, and it is like such an undisputed good purpose that and I'm fixing my mistakes, and it's also like really engaging from a puzzle perspective, from a creativity perspective. You know me, I'm always playing a lot of stuff. And often what I'll do is if I have like 3 times during a day where I can sit and play a game, I will play 3 different games to make progress on all my stuff that I'm playing. But for the Ultros one, I think I played like 5 or 6 hours in one day because like I could not think of playing anything other than Ultros during that last bit.
Love that for you, Dave. Love that for you.
Oh, it was great. I love it.
Swept up in it, man. That's the best feeling.
Metroidvanias get me with that, probably more so than most genres. I think that it's just an inherently rewarding genre to play. If you combat difficulties aside, in some of them, like I think that there's psychology and chemistry involved in the rewards and wanting me to play more too, of course, but they are compelling games. Just the structure of them is compelling, but the added kind of mission, like you said in Ultros, that added on to it. Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, after that kind of, I think that the way that the first ending is undercooked as well is like, I don't think any player is going to get that ending and feel like they've cracked it.
Right.
It is an easy out. I talked about this with Hugo, and Hugo was like, we wanted to give players a place to check out if they wanted to, and to have had their fill. But there was so obviously more to the story that I felt driven. I felt driven by the mechanics as we've been describing, but I felt driven by the mystery too. Right.
And now the mystery of like what's going to happen when you connect all of them.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful feeling. Like I don't gravitate toward wholesome games. It's just a lot of my favorite games are not in that wholesome camp. And again, I think like because of the way the first half of this game works, then the second half, which is all about this cultivation and connection and, a really like connection to nature. You yourself are connecting, but you're also facilitating connection, is really, really like beautiful. It would not have worked without the contrast of what happened in the first half of the game, for me personally. And it's hearing you describe the creators, which I knew nothing about them, but I could infer a little bit because this is what they decided to make the game about. It is a game about connecting with nature and you possibly fixing your mistakes, but by doing that, you are forging connection. You're filling the station with life in a way that like, did you ever like take a victory lap around the ship and just be like, look at what we've made here. Like, look at how beautiful the ship is now with all of this life in all of these different places. Maybe not a victory lap, but like going through an old area maybe that you'd already connected to the network and you're like, look how different this place looks.
I did. I mean, my 28-hour playtime.
True.
Will tell you that I lingered a lot in many areas of the game, but especially towards the end when the ship had come to life. It was a pleasant place to be.
Mm-hmm. So after connecting them, we go to the second ending of the game. You connect everything to the living network. You go back to the humidicrib. I forgot to say the word for where Ultros is being held.
Yeah, the demon cradle.
Yeah. You have that cutscene where you kind of, the screen tilts sideways and you get sucked up into the place where Ultros is, and you go into this other, I don't know where it is, another dimension. I'm not sure, but Qualia is in there now, and together you walk with her in front of Ultros. You sit down, you hold hands with her, and the text says, "Once diverged, now gently intertwined." Was the phrase that I wrote down. There's more text than that.
Mm-hmm.
Ultros kind of erupts like the old ending, but this time it's not this Lovecraftian nightmare overtaking the universe. It's like a flower blooming and shooting life in all directions. You get a scene of, after the credits, you see something that looks like a seed falling to the planet that's been below that station. And it's like, if you weren't sure already, you've done a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, after the Qualia section of the ending, right? Because Qualia is a great character. You throw her, your existence throws her into a crisis, and you witness her unraveling before your eyes throughout the game as a person. Her purpose is gone, and yet you are fulfilling her purpose. She is jealous. She is sometimes violently jealous. And then in the end, she kind of overcomes her personal problems, having lost her purpose, and sees that supporting you is actually her duty. She's just not going to get the glory. So I love that trajectory of Qualia. And so seeing them come together at the end, it's like, okay, you are sisters of some sort here. Like it's good. It's like we've changed from conflict and insecurity towards having a greater purpose. It fits with the game. Yet when the credits rolled, I was bummed out. I was like, I want more. Tell me more. I need to know more. And then, so I was hanging out for the post-credit scene, right? And then it turns out to be very slight. You see a dot fall to Earth from the station. My interpretation of that at the time was, in the Ultros tablets that tell the story of Ultros, Ultros is a humanoid being that falls to Beria from space. It's the first slide, right? You see a creature falling to Earth. Then you see the Berians embracing Ultros, the humanoid being, into their culture. They then learn that Ultros has special powers that they can perhaps use in some way, and that they harness. It goes horribly wrong, and Ultros becomes a monster. And then they then store Ultros in space, basically, and that's what you've discovered, right? And because there is a time loop in the game, my interpretation was that the dot falling to Earth was perhaps a loop, that it was a humanoid falling to Earth, as we saw in the first slide. And I was like, the loop begins anew. Let the quiet mycelium lament our unrest and return to what once was. It was like the loop, the loop of the whole story. Like the whole story began in the expanded Ultros universe with a space creature falling to Earth. So I was like, I think we just saw that happening again. That was my takeaway in the end.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's right.
I don't know. I don't know if my interpretation's right either. It just seemed, it seemed like with all of the planting and cultivating that we'd done, that a seed falling felt right to me.
That's nice. I like that better.
The end of the game after the credits is interesting too. They leave you with your stats screen, like a Metroid game will give you your playtime, your damage given, your damage taken, how many loops you did. It shows your character lying on a hammock, relaxing. There's a really weird like moon with an eye looking at them, but it also leaves you with a poem, which I thought was interesting, something to think about. Something I trying to get better at it, is not rush to Discord to say, I finished Ultros, as the credits are rolling. Try to be better about just sit in the credits, read the names, listen to the music, think about what's happened. And the end of credits poem here is a nice touch to add to that. So the poem says, I'll read the poem. It says, "The moon beckons, introspection. a dark night of the soul. What shadows may lie deep, to stop you must die. Do not lay waste to homes where you must rest. Your weary bones, draw them up, draw them out. That's what it's all about. And kind of like the message of Ultros in a nutshell there, in my interpretation of the poem. But if you've done all the work to connect the station, you already know what this is about. It's just a little capstone on the experience. And as you've told me what you've said about the people who made the game, it makes perfect sense for this game to end on a poem, if anything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's nice that, I mean, the interview with Pele is really interesting. Man. Pele is just an interesting person looking for ways to serve the game through writing, but also opportunities to go for a walk in the writing too. And there aren't that many words in Ultros. You know, I think Oscar Ratvader said that a lot of the music is functional. You have to have combat music, you have to have boss music, you have to be doing every Foley artist's least favorite thing of making boss roars. But you also get a chance to have a 10-minute piece in the intro screen that really does like express something. It's really lovely that Pele gets a chance to put a poem here at the end, being a poet who has also served the game. It's a little space for Pele to express themselves at the end there. And, you know, Hugo and Oscar's eco-mindedness permeates the game so strongly. You know, Nicholas might be the driving, the creative engine behind the game, but it really is all of them together with all of their concerns about birth and rebirth. One of them literally becoming a parent during the course of development. You know, Oscar, who sheds tears for the rainforest when you talk to him. Like these people are like they believe so strongly in these things. It's lovely how it all came together, and like I said, like I think the most fascinating thing about it is the alchemy. Like they were just struggling through the game dev process with all of their thoughts and troubles, and it came out like this. Like I think for all of them, they look at it and say, "Wow," you know?
Yeah, I think that the magic of it is that they got me on board with what they wanted to say without telling me too much. Actually, without telling me anything, basically. They made me feel a certain way, and then they guided me into a discovery that then shifted my mindset of how I interact with the world here. It sounds like the way that they intended, but they did it without anyone scolding me for what I did. You know, Qualia's mad at you, but like she's not. Like it always felt like she kind of wants the same thing as what I was doing. It wasn't that she was, you know, why are you killing all the animals? Like Gardner will get mad at you if you start digging and like cutting through roots in his garden, which I thought is fun.
He's like, quit that.
Yeah. Because there's a compost like right next to it, like right next to where he's chilling. And you gotta like go around roots to get to it, otherwise he'll get mad and yank your digger out of the soil. But like no one is pushing me to this realization. The game is like guiding me through all of these different mechanisms, and to think about like the process by which like to do it in a game is got to be hard, because like you are creating this thing, but I, as the player, am like such an unpredictable variable. I'm like, am I gonna like come to all those realizations and make those discoveries and shift that mindset? I mean, obviously the both of us got there. I think this game is really special for having that impact. Even if it's not like if this was advertised as like, this is the eco-friendly game where you connect plants on a space station, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to play that.
I would be fuck yeah, but it wouldn't be as impactful for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. That pitch to me, like, even if I agree with the message, that pitch to me is like, it's not the game that I want to play, really. Not the games that I gravitate to. But they got me there, so it's a big victory, I think. This game is a triumph in that way.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, really. I mean, I came away from this one thinking there's nothing I've ever played quite like that. It's a really unique thing, like a rare thing made by an unlikely group that just came out intensely, incredibly well. I really think that it will be a cult classic of the future.
Yeah. Well, I'll be beating the drum. I know you've been beating the drum. Hopefully people who are still with us, you've heard us talk about it. Even if you didn't play it, I hope that you get it. I hope you try it still, even though you know what's going on. I think it's still a sight to behold. It's still, the sounds are incredible. It's still a cool game. So, John, thanks for going through Ultros with me. This has been really fun. So I'm really glad that you getting the chance to do the book made me push up the game and actually, like, it was on that pile of, I got a bunch of games that I intend to play, and it's just, you can only play so many. I'm glad that I made space to fit this one in. So thanks for that. And then thanks for doing the show with me.
No, it's a pleasure. You keep asking me to come and talk about games that I'm really, really passionate about and invested in. And I think that, like, unpacking games with you for several hours is really, really fun for me because,
Good.
Like writing the book it was like the excuse to be invested in this game for a year and to go to the end of every passageway and to find out everything that you can. It's such a gift to be able to spend time with a game in that sense, And I think, like, sometimes with games like Inscription and 1,000 Times Resist and this game, they are the kind of games that you can keep talking about, you can keep unpacking, and you'll keep figuring out more things. You'll keep learning more stuff, basically. So thanks for having me on. Fun to talk about with you. Great to hear some of your insights and things that I'd missed, like Gardner's line about the sword. I missed that, and that's so key. I'd missed the significance of it. So yeah, I'm still learning about the game. It's one of those games that you can keep learning about, I think.
Absolutely. And if anyone is still with us and thinks that there's something that we didn't talk about that you think is special, come and join in the Discord server and let us know. I'm pretty sure that, I know there's a lot of stuff I didn't even write down in one ear, out the other type stuff. So come join, come share. I think that'll be a good time. And so please, again, go check out Gaming in the Wild, the podcast on the YouTube channel. And if you really love Ultros, please consider getting that book. You should still be able to get it from Lost in Cult. Again, there's links to everything down in the show notes. And if you're still with us at the end, as always, you're my hero. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
Feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCoy.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman. We know. I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.